Hello, Lip Sync for Your Life subreddit. It is I, Miss Ariel Italic, fully out of drag, a little bit sick, so I've got my, mask for mask voice right now. I know this is as butch as it gets. I've owed you guys a seminar on expressive lip syncing for a while, and I have not followed through, and I apologize. It's like the only thing in the world that I actually know how to do, so even though lip syncing expressively is a largely useless skill, I am going to pass what little knowledge I have on to you. Okay, so step one is, if you don't have, an asshole host who makes you do songs from the hat and you're really mad at her, then pick a song that you emotionally connect with already. Find that jam that gets you pumped up. Find the song that makes you think of your ex and you're all, lovelorn and sad. Find something that riles you up and makes you angry. Find that song so that when you're lip syncing, you've got that chord progression that makes you yeah, and you're like, this is that moment, and you just go for it and try to just be free with your lip sync. Try to let the emotions build naturally and just come out. Don't overthink it, just, just go for it. But of course, you can't always pick that song, or there isn't a song that fits the theme, or you've just got this other idea that you want to do. So the real question is, when you have to fake the emotions, how do you do that? Alright, so step 2 is going to be figure out what story the song is telling. A good example is Melissa Etheridge's Come to My Window. Don't just film a lip sync by a window. The song is not about the window. The song is about someone inviting their lover over, and it's filled with sort of a longing, it's filled with a sense of secrecy, and there are a lot of ways you could play it. What story do you want to tell? Do you miss someone? Are you being coy and flirty and inviting? Are you inviting them over to murder them? There's ways to play it. So think not only about what the song itself is telling, but the kind of narrative you'd like to portray. So really plan that out in your head, plan that out in your whole vision, but think critically about the emotional content of your lip sync. Okay, you've got your story. Now think of a literal story you could tell. Ideally, this is something that happened to you in your life, because that will stir up the most emotion, but you can also recount the plot of a movie that really affected you. Tell a fairy tale, anything that fits with the emotional content, and maybe get a little caffeinated or a little drunk so you're extra expressive, and literally sit in front of the camera and tell that story. Or maybe film yourself telling the story to a friend, or even just sit in front of the mirror and tell the story. But the idea is you want to find that thing that triggers that emotion so that you can see and feel what it looks like to have that emotion. This is just literal acting stuff. It's not the only way to do it, but it's a way that works. So you can talk about oh my god, my crush finally asked me out. Or, Ariel Italic is still doing drag even though nobody wants her to. Or, I can't believe that my dad said that. Find those things that trigger that emotion. Even if it's just once upon a time there was a princess in the woods. I don't know why she was in the woods. What fairy tale is that? But find out what your face does when you feel those things. See the way that your eyebrows go when you're surprised. See the way that your mouth tightens when you're angry. That's what portraying emotion is, and that's what you need to do. Watch a lot of performers and steal from them. And that does not mean rip off an entire performance, but if there's a particular way that someone shrugs their shoulder that says something to you and you want to incorporate that into your video, do it. This could be a scene Meryl Streep does. This could be a lip sync that Detox does. This could be something that fabric softener bear does in the commercial that you just think really works. Whatever it is, just grab it and incorporate it. You want to use that sort of emotional language that shows people what you are feeling. So if there's something that made you feel because someone else felt it, then use that. It's a sort of unspoken language, and that's the whole point of this, is to speak to someone emotionally. Get it? Okay, so just like eye contact is very important in a conversation, camera contact is very important in a video. Have a clear picture in mind of who your audience is, because on the other end of that camera, there is a person sitting at a computer, looking at the screen, seeing you through that lens, which is not to say that you should envision the rest of this subreddit when you do your lip syncing. Think about who fits with that story. Is it your spouse, your parent, a small group of friends, a large theater? Figure out who you are selling that story to, and have that in your head when you do it. Now, that doesn't mean that you stay locked on the camera 100%. I am a huge fan of, like, the look up and to the left once in a while. I don't know why, it just always comes to me. Maybe you're selling it to a broader crowd. Maybe there's someone over there that you're talking to. You know, you don't have to lock on and never let go, but know when it is time to lean in and tell an intimate story, or do something broader. But always have that audience in mind, because that is literally your audience, is right through that little tiny lens. It's a very small aperture through which everyone views you. So the final thing is merging that stuff. You need to figure out what parts of the song have what emotions. And that can be as broad as I'm happy at the beginning and sad at the end. That can be as granular as on the third word I'm gonna get really pumped for some reason, and then I'm gonna be immediately disappointed by the time I get to the end of that sentence. Like, you find those things, and sometimes it's really helpful to be that specific. If you have a few key moments that you want to punch, like, be sure you have those. And if it's just a broader thing, then be sure that you know sort of the journey. Either it's a start small, get big, it's a start one way, get another, it's just a sort of general blow where, like, sometimes you're big and sometimes you're small, but, like, know what's happening. Again, this is very about planning. Now get out your camera and film yourself doing it. Don't do the whole lip sync. Don't put on your costume and get your props and all that. Literally just sit there and lip sync to the camera and see your face. Does that match the story you told when you told a story to the camera? Does that say anything? Does it look entirely different? Does it look like nothing? Be sure that you know what your face is doing. Now, eventually you will perhaps get to the point where you don't need that practice take all the time. You sort of know that you're doing what you're doing with your face and shoulders and whatever. But make sure you're there. Make sure that before you get your dance moves, before you get your set built, before you make a wig out of other wigs and small animals, just know that you've got that lip sync correct. Your face is doing the thing that you need it to do. And if it's not, figure out what it needs to do. So yeah, that is a very basic start. It's not the only way, it's certainly not the best way. It is a way to show some feeling. Play with it. See what works for you. If you have questions, I might have answers, but then again, maybe not. And if other people have tips that they want to share, please do so. There are so many expressive people in this subreddit, and I would love for them all to give a tip or two about how they deliver their lip syncs. It doesn't have to be a big video thing, just, like, write a comment in this thread. I don't care. It's been great talking to you guys. I hope this helps, and I can't wait to see what kind of videos you pull out for expressive lip syncing. Ah, my face is crazy. Ugh.